What if the goal of aging is not survival, but becoming? What if every year you live is meant to move you closer to love, connection, and meaning, not further away from relevance, purpose, and vitality? What if aging is not a problem to be solved, but a direction to be followed? Welcome to We Have a Spiritual Problem, a podcast where we confront the deeper questions beneath our personal struggles and collective crises. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong. I am not a theologian or a philosopher, or at least in training. I am a PhD exercise physiologist with an interest in the intersection of the physical and the spiritual. Today, I want to talk about aging, but not in a way that we usually talk about it. Not as loss, not as decline, not as something to be feared or fought. I want to talk about aging as direction, aging as movement, aging as spiritual evolution. And I want to explore that through the lens of the remarkable thinker, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, and through the ideas of well-centeredness, purposeful aging, and what I call transformative aging. There's a quiet assumption baked into modern culture that aging is primarily a problem, a medical problem, a cosmetic problem, an economic problem, a social problem. We talk about anti-aging as if it's the enemy. We talk about fighting time, beating the clock, staying young. We measure success by how little we appear to have changed. But what if that entire framing is wrong? What if aging is not something to resist, but something to aim? Not something to fight, but something to grow into. What if aging is not decline, but direction? This is where I want to begin, with the idea that aging is not accidental. It's not random. It is not meaningless. It is not simply atrophy with candles on a cake. Aging is a movement. It's a process. It's becoming. And that brings me to Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Regular viewers and listeners will be familiar with Teilhard. Teilhard was a paleontologist, a Jesuit priest, and a deeply original thinker. He lived in the early 20th century, worked with fossils and evolutionary theory, and at the same time wrote profoundly about spirituality, meaning, and human destiny. In his work, The Phenomenon of Man, he argued that evolution is not just biological. It is also psychological, social, and spiritual. He believed that consciousness itself is evolving, that humanity is moving slowly and unevenly toward greater awareness, greater connection, and greater love. He called the direction of that movement the Omega Point, not a place, not a date, not an apocalypse, but a direction toward unity, love, consciousness, and communion. For Teilhard, evolution is not random chance. It is directional complexity. Matter becomes life. Life becomes mind. Mind becomes reflection. Reflection becomes relationship. Relationship becomes love. And love, he believed, is not a side effect of evolution. It is its destination. Now, you do not have to be religious to take this seriously. You do not have to believe in God in a traditional sense. You do not have to accept every metaphysical claim Teilhard made. You must only accept one simple idea, that human life seems capable of moving toward greater awareness, deeper connection, and wider compassion. And if that's true, then aging becomes something radically different. Aging is not decay. Aging is direction. Aging is spiritual evolution. Now, when I say spiritual, I do not mean religious doctrine. I do not mean belief systems. I do not mean rituals or institutions. I mean orientation. I mean what we are pointed toward. I mean what we are becoming. Spiritual evolution is not about what you believe. It's about how you grow. Do you grow toward isolation or connection? Do you grow toward fear or love? Do you grow toward self-importance or humility? Do you grow toward control or care? This is why I say that aging well is not just physical. It's not just psychological. It's not just social. It's biomechanical, it's psychological, it's social, and it is spiritual, all at once. If any one of those collapses, the whole thing suffers. You can have a strong body and a hollow soul. You can have a sharp mind and a bitter heart. You can have many people around you and still be profoundly alone. Aging well means becoming well-centered. Now, what do I mean by well-centered? Well-centered is not self-centeredness. It is not ego. It is not dominance. It is not control. Well-centeredness means being anchored in something larger than yourself while being deeply at home in yourself. A well-centered person is stable without being rigid, confident without being arrogant, rooted without being closed. They know who they are, but they also know that they are not the center of the universe. And this is one of the great spiritual problems of our time. We have confused self-expression with self-centeredness. We have confused authenticity with obsession with self. We have confused freedom with isolation. We tell people to live your truth, but we rarely ask, how does your truth serve others? How does your life widen love? How does your story connect with the human story? Teilhard would say you are not meant to be a closed system. You are meant to be a converging one. Human life, at its best, is not about standing apart. It's about growing together. This is where the Omega Point becomes deeply practical. The Omega Point is not a cosmic event. It is a human direction. It is the asymptote of well-centeredness. It is the direction where individuality and unity are not opposites, but partners. And you do not lose yourself by loving others. You become more yourself. You do not shrink by serving. You expand. You do not disappear in community. You are completed by it. This is what transformative aging looks like. Transformative aging is not just staying functional. It's becoming fuller. It's becoming deeper. It's becoming more connected, not more protected. Most of our cultural models of aging are defensive. Avoid disease, avoid pain, avoid dependence, avoid death. Those are understandable, but they are not sufficient. But you can avoid all of those and still avoid becoming. Transformative aging is intentional. It does not happen by accident. It does not happen just because time passes. You do not automatically grow wiser with age. You only grow older. Wisdom is cultivated. Compassion is practiced. Purpose is chosen. This is where models like the well-centered fitness and the SPIES model matter. SPIES, spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social well-being. Not 5 separate lives, one integrated life. If one domain grows while the others shrink, imbalance appears. If one dominates, distortion occurs. You can be physically strong and spiritually weak. You can be intellectually brilliant and emotionally brittle. You can be socially active and spiritually empty. Transformative aging means tending to all 5 intentionally. And notice the order. Spiritual is not last, it is first. Not because it is religious, but because it is orienting. Spiritual asks, what are you growing toward? What is your life aiming at? What is the center that holds your life together? Without that, everything else becomes scattered. Now, here's the hard truth. Aging reveals what you have been practicing. If you have practiced bitterness, aging sharpens it. If you have practiced fear, aging deepens it. If you have practiced isolation, aging intensifies it. But if you have practiced love, aging clarifies it. If you have practiced gratitude, aging strengthens it. If you have practiced connection, aging deepens it. Aging does not change you, it unmasks you. That is why aging can be frightening, because it removes distractions. It removes illusions of endless time. It removes the fantasy of infinite postponement. You can no longer say, someday I will, because someday becomes now. Transformative aging begins when you stop asking, how do I stay young? And start asking, how do I become whole? Now let's connect this back to Teilhard. Teilhard believed that evolution is not just something that happened in the past. It is happening through us. We are not just products of evolution. We are participants in it. Every act of love is evolutionary. Every act of connection is evolutionary. Every act of compassion is evolutionary. When you grow more human, humanity grows with you. Aging, then, is not withdrawal from the human story. It is deeper participation in it, if you choose it. This is why the spiritual problem of aging is not fear of death. It is the fear of irrelevance. We are terrified of not mattering. But what if mattering is not about being noticed, but about being needed? And not about being admired, but about being useful in love. Not about being central, but about being connected. A well-centered life is not loud, it is luminous. It does not dominate rooms, it changes them. It does not demand attention, it gives presence. Transformative aging means becoming a person whose very way of being makes others more human. Now let me say something clearly. This is not easy. This is not sentimental. This is not automatic. It requires letting go of some things. Letting go of the need to be impressive. Letting go of the need to be right. Letting go of the need to be in control. Letting go of the fantasy that life owes you comfort. Aging well requires surrender, not to weakness, but to reality. Reality says, you will change, you will lose, you will grieve, you will be humbled. But reality also says, you can grow deeper, you can grow kinder, you can grow wiser, you can grow more connected. The omega point is not perfection, it is direction. You will never arrive, you will only approach. Like an asymptote, always getting closer but never complete. That is what well-centeredness is. Not a state you achieve, but a direction you live. Each year, the question is not, what did I lose? But what did I grow toward? Did you grow toward love or away from it? Toward connection or away from it? Toward meaning or away from it? Aging well is not about adding years to life. It's about adding life to years, but not in a shallow way. Not just more experiences, not just more pleasures, but more depth, more truth, more love. The tragedy of aging in our culture is not that people get old. It's that people get old without becoming. They accumulate years, but not wisdom. Stories, but not meaning. Experiences, but not transformation. Transformative aging is the refusal to let time pass without letting it change you. It is the decision to let loss soften you instead of harden you. To let suffering widen you instead of close you. To let limitation teach you instead of embitter you. That is spiritual evolution. Not floating away from the world, but becoming more present in it. Not escaping the body, but inhabiting it wisely. Not rejecting time, but using it consciously. Aging well is not about clinging to youth. It's about growing into humanity. The omega point, in everyday language, is simply this: becoming more fully human, more capable of love, more capable of understanding, more capable of connection, more capable of compassion. And that is not reserved for saints or mystics. It is available to anyone who chooses direction over drift. So here's the question I leave you with. Not how old are you, but which way are you aging? Toward fear or toward love? Toward isolation or toward community? Toward bitterness or toward gratitude? Toward self-centeredness or toward well-centeredness? You're aging whether you like it or not. The only real choice is how. And that, my friends, is not a medical problem, not a cosmetic problem, not an economic problem. It is a spiritual problem. And it is also a spiritual opportunity, an opportunity to grow, to become, to converge, to love. Not perfectly, not quickly, but intentionally. That is transformative aging. That is spiritual evolution. That is aging toward the omega point. It's not a tragedy of aging. It's the glory of aging. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And please share it with a friend, and be good to yourself, be good to others.